Buswell for drvoip.com. Today we're going to take a quick look at upgrading ShoreTel. The outline we have here today applies to any upgrade of ShoreTel, but this presentation is using version 12 to version 13, 13.1 being ShoreTel's latest release. So the process of updating ShoreTel is really an issue of change management. The complexity of the voice over IP technology has gotten to the point where you have to be diligent in managing changes that you make to your deployment. Now, upgrading ShoreTel generally is pretty straightforward. It is brilliantly simple. It's not a very complex process at all, but it does require that you pay attention to the devil in the details. It's very important that you realize that your ShoreTel deployment is touching many, many other components. You've got any number of servers, your headquarters server, your distributed servers, maybe you've got a CSTA server, an ECC server. You have to plan for these in your deployment and the upgrade of that deployment. Perhaps you have Active Directory integration. You have a variety of different desktop OS issues to consider. Is the new release going to support that old Vista installation? You know, where's XP? How about Windows 7 or 8? Your applications. Is it a requirement that you have Outlook 2003? Will ShoreTel support that in this new release? Again, you have to create a matrix and manage your changes. What's the impact if you're using VMware? How about Citrix? Do you have terminal services set up in your deployment? You're going to have to look at each of those issues independently and assess the impact of upgrading ShoreTel with respect to those other components in your system. You have all kinds of hardware out there, obviously phones and switches. ShoreTel from time to time drops support for an older telephone. Some of your older switches may no longer be supported. You've got cameras out there, headsets. There's all kinds of devices. The last thing in the world you want to do is go through a successful deployment upgrade only to find out that the headsets don't work anymore, or the camera that we got for our video conferencing is not supported. It's these kinds of details that are going to dictate the success of your upgrade. So pay attention. Network related issues, you know, what happens if the MEAD transmission unit, the MTU size of your packets on your network changes? Is it going to impact your routers and switches? Again, I'm just trying to stress how important it is that you look at an upgrade within the context of all of the different applications and hardwares that the software is going to touch. Change management is really what this is all about. The actual upgrade you're going to see is pretty straightforward. It's very simple. ShoreTel publishes release notes and build notes with every new release of software, and it's important that you absolutely review these. You're just going to have to take the time to go through the software release notes and the build notes. We'll talk about what's in these documents, but it's important. It's critical that you take the time to review them. Look at your installation guide, your admin guide. Note equipment impact. If there's going to be phones and switches that are no longer supported, you want to know that before you do your upgrade. In version 13, there's now a compatibility tool that you can run, and it'll help you identify any issues relating to software compatibility. You have to pay attention to the OS requirements. You know, for example, in version 13, Windows 2003 Server will no longer be supported. So if you're going to upgrade to version 13 in ShoreTel, you need to pay attention. If you got 2003 servers out there, you've got a much larger upgrade program to undertake than just upgrading ShoreTel. Back up, and back up. I can't stress this. There is no reason today why you shouldn't have a complete backup of your ShoreTel deployment such that you could recover from bare metal if that were a requirement. You could rebuild that system. And it is only prudent that you have a regularly scheduled program of backing up your ShoreTel configuration. I recommend that you have a written recovery and fallback plan. If for some reason your deployment upgrade goes sideways, it's not the time to be scurrying around trying to figure it out. You should have thought this out before you did the upgrade. Where are my recovery files? Who's going to do what? Where are they going to do it? And how long will it take us to recover should we have to fall back to the previous build? I'm going to suggest that you also have I describe it as a serial printer cable, and they're getting harder to find as people, everybody's gone to USB type cables for their printers and peripheral devices, but an old printer cable, one that has a male DB9 connection on the end of it, you want to have one of those available to you. ShoreGear switches support this cable for a console connection. And I have seen situations where you're doing your upgrade and for whatever the reason in the middle of a firmware load your ShoreGear switch goes offline and suddenly it becomes stupid. And if your switch becomes stupid, you're not going to be able to telnet into it, so you better be prepared to have a serial cable available and physical access to that switch. So I put physical access to your switches high on the list. Make sure that you have personnel distributed around the deployment that who can, provide hands and feet for your remote locations, and that'll also dictate how many of these cables you need. But I would have one available anytime I did a ShoreTel upgrade, and you should just have it as part of your ShoreTel kit. What are in the release notes? The reason you want to review release notes is because they are going to outline new features and enhancements. They're going to highlight any changes that are going to affect users or administrators. And anytime we do a deployment, we clearly have to be aware of the impact the upgrade will have on our user population. There's many people out in your deployment who are going to be impacted, and you want to, as part of your upgrade plan, notify these people of any changes so that the first day on the new software, you're not fielding a lot of support calls. You're going to find system requirements, installation requirements, all of your client upgrade paths, even a recommended upgrade procedure in your release notes. And again, you want to be aware of any changes to the OS requirements for your servers. Your build notes will contain an upgrade path. So if you're trying to figure out, can I go from version 9.1 to 13.1, the answer to that question will be found in your build notes. Build notes are also going to provide you compatibility items. It's going to talk about the list of firmware, the various hardware, browsers, desktop support. All your compatibility issues will be addressed there. If there are any known issues, they will be highlighted in this document. Bug fixes. What got fixed in this release from the previous bug list, what didn't get fixed, that'll all be in your build notes. And typically, the good folks at ShoreTel provide you some tips and tricks. So the actual upgrade path itself, as I said before, it's not that difficult. If you've taken the time to do your homework and you have a plan, you can set about a very specific task of upgrading your software. And so what we'll notice is that the first thing you're going to want to do is upgrade the headquarters server first. During the time that the headquarters server is being upgraded, the telephone system will continue to process phone calls. So your switches, your short gear switches, as we all know, they don't need a server to go about their business. So they will still be processing phone calls, and active phone calls will continue, and the system will answer incoming phone calls, but you're not going to have any voicemail or automated attendant. The next thing you'll want to do, now we can debate about this. Some people think that the next step should be to upgrade the switches at the headquarters site. And I think at this point we're going to leave that up for discussion. The thinking is that let me get my headquarters switches upgraded, and then I will have an operating headquarters site with auto attendant and voicemail. The other side of that coin is, no, let's upgrade our servers first. Let's get the distributed voicemail servers updated, because these servers are going to take approximately an hour. I'd set aside an hour each for getting the software updated. And if we run into an issue, I'd rather run into it at that point before my switches have been upgraded, and then if I need to, I can roll back. So I'm going to stick with this recommendation: headquarters server first, distributed voicemail servers next. Then when those servers come online and are communicating, go ahead, log into your shortware director and restart your switches. I wouldn't restart them all at once, depending on the number of them you have out there, but go ahead and get them restarted. Just restarting it in director will cause them to reload their firmware. When you log in, you will notice that they have yellow indications, and they say in Quick Look that they have a firmware mismatch. So go ahead and get that restarted, and that will upgrade their firmware. The voice switches can take a long time to upgrade, so plan for that in your deployment. Restart the phones as the switch that phone is registered to comes alive with its new firmware. Once it has its new firmware, go ahead and restart your phone. The phones will update automatically. Their new firmware will be made available. And then after your system is up and operational, then we can tend to the client software. So regardless of the size of your deployment, this is the steps you want to follow. It is very straightforward. It is brilliantly simple, but it does require that you address change management, that you pay attention to the detail, that you prepare, get your software downloaded and distributed, before you attempt your upgrade. And if you follow this procedure, I think you'll find that your ShoreTel server is going to come alive, and your phone system will be operational, and your users will be happy.